They just made one today. Did anyone hear about that? It has nothing to do with the comp line or the finances, but kind of a fun topic. We held a little conference call today with some of our top distributors to talk about it and hear a little bit more of an explanation from our corporate officers as to what it means. But if you didn't read the press release this morning, the company just announced that Donnie Osmond has contracted with the company to be an official spokesperson for LifeVantage and Pro Tandem, in which, you know, they didn't get into a lot of detail as to what his itineraries look like as far as where this might be promoted from his end. But the cool thing about Donnie's affiliation with the company now is it's not one of these paid endorsements that's just to get paid, just to have you around and show face like most of these things happen with celebrities or athletes and things like that. Donnie has been on the product, so has his wife Marie, but they've been on the product for almost 2 years. Or sister, I was thinking about something else. They've been on the product for almost 2 years, you guys, and they have some pretty amazing testimonials about it. And so their desire to be involved with this is purely because they believe in it, and they're going to be unveiling, Donnie's secret to health and fitness and looking and feeling good. And part of that explanation of what his program would be, you'll probably hear Pro Tandem brought up in that. So pretty neat things happening there. But so from the fast start bonuses to the unilevel structure, it goes from these upfront monies that pay the enroller most of the money up front through a 40% fast start and things like that. It rolls into these residual bonuses on that second month and every month after that. So when somebody enrolls, the money gets paid through fast starts. Then their second, third, fourth, fifth, every order they purchase after that, which we call an auto ship, would be paid through this residual royalty bonus, which is a unilevel structure. So if your goal, like I said, is just build one little group and make a few $100 or a few $1,000s a month, then go do it. Get with your upline, plug into the system, do what it takes to get those numbers in there. If your goal is to make $10, $20, $15, $30,000 a month, whatever, then we need to sit down and map that out, because for every goal there's a roadmap to get there. And the amount of work doesn't change to get there. There's X amount of things that need to happen to get there, but the rate that we get there depends on really you. Me and Blue didn't want to wait 2-3 years to make a full-time income with this. We wanted to do it in 2 or 3 months. So we just went out and didn't go to sleep until it was done. And it wasn't just our efforts, and I don't want to take credit for that because we went out and worked hard, which we did. But it was finding those key people to work with who we could leverage our combined efforts and exponentially grow that. And just to paint a picture of how that works and to be real with you guys, me and Blue enrolled 25 people into this company. Okay, 25. It sounds like a lot, and that wasn't done all at once. We did it as quickly as we could, but that was a combined effort of my contacts, his contacts. We probably talked to 70 or 80 people to find those 25 people who said yes to the business. Now, I'm not talking about customers. Customers don't grow your business. I mean, maybe they will a little bit. They talk about it. But customers support it. They add to the bottom line of everything, and they bring stability to the overall network, in which we have more customers in the system than we do distributors anyways. Okay, we have over 60% of the orders that are going out to just customers. But I don't know that there's a company out there that can say the same thing. Okay, not in this industry. Most of these companies have their orders going out to distributors who are customers, but they're financially driven, most of them, to be a customer in what they're doing. So when we look at what are our 25 distributors that we started out with, how kind of that panned out and what it's turned into over 2 years, about half of those people decided to run with this thing and become what we call builders and leaders. And we've worked very closely with all of them and their families and travel all over the country with them, talking to different contacts and how that leads you to someone else who knew somebody in New Hampshire, who knew somebody in Tampa, who knows somebody in Hawaii, and now you're in Japan. You never know how this is going to take you, but through them and their contacts is how that started to grow. And the other half of our personal enrollments, was kind of set on it, and they didn't do a lot with it. As much as we try to help them, you can't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. So we just got people involved. We did our part doing that, and then we started supporting those people and plugging them into the system that we teach and follow. And those 12 that became builders have now turned into over 25,000 people in just over 2 years. Okay. Now I haven't met all 25,000 people. I don't know 25,000 people. You don't have to. And you don't have to manage 25,000 people. The system of duplication, the way that works when it's done correctly, and the way that it grows exponentially is really out of your control. That's why it's good to have a system that works. And keep that system simple, and it allows anybody and everybody to plug into it. Doesn't matter if you got a PhD or just you know, like me, barely got a high school diploma because, you know, working jobs got in the way to go to school. I mean, that was where it was. Growing up in a small town, I was making more money running heavy equipment on road jobs than anybody who worked at my school. And it was kind of hard to justify me giving up $40 an hour on the front end of a loader than sitting in a classroom learning how to do English, which I failed twice. I was like, English? This is something we teach. I know, I had a hard time with it, but they finally just got rid of this. They said, here, we don't have room to keep people back anymore. It's a small school. And in our class, I remember, when I graduated in 2002, we were the standard that was taking this English test for the very first time. So we didn't have to pass it. We just had to take it to set the standard for the people coming after us. I said, this program will never work if you're starting with us. It's funny, I just went to a funeral for a buddy of mine who just passed away over there where I grew up near Stafford. And I ran into a lot of people I haven't seen in 8, 9 years. And, you know, some of them were falling apart. Some of them were holding together. It's kind of funny to see that. But it was funny talking to some of all our old teachers. They said, you know, I don't really remember anything since then, just class of 2002. That's all we remember. So it's kind of funny to hear those stories. But you guys, there's a lot of money built into this comp plan. There's a lot that people need to understand about it. If you study it and you master it and you understand it, then you can teach it. And it's just as important as teaching the product to people. Okay? There's matching bonuses. You're going to match people's paychecks and getting them an income. There's profit sharing bonuses to get to the top of the company, Pro 7 and above, which we call our elite ranks. You're going to share on 4% of global sales of the company, which right now, you know, we're a little bitty $50 million, $60 million a year company. We're on track to go over $100 million by the end of this year. And, you know, there's some bigger forecasts that are made 3 or 4 years out from there. And, you know, when you look at what 4% of global sales is to an elite group of people that are splitting that, it's a pretty nice cherry on top of the sundae. You know, Eric Alverson is just going to pay for tires and gas for his new Corvette the way he drives it. But, you know, it's a special place to get to. You can't just accidentally get to Pro 7 and above. You can't just enroll somebody and you got lucky to do that. I mean, anybody who's an elite distributor had to work to get there. They did presentations, whether it be maybe not in a meeting this big, but, you know, maybe it's people's living rooms and people across the table at coffee shops, you know, people's places of business. I've done meetings in the most random, strange places you'd never imagine where we've gone. I mean, I've literally in one day seen the biggest spread of personalities that I could see in one day. One morning we drove up to Prescott for an in-law to a cousin of mine that we were doing a presentation for, and we go up this double-wide trailer that's got all kinds of stuff out in the yard, and this guy in there, you know, he's a big old red-bearded, bald guy, covered in tattoos, and he's like the main go-to guy in that region for the Hells Angels chapter, right? That's who he is. And he's got like 4 or 5 cell phones blown up with text messages, and he's doing his thing right there. We're talking about pro tandem to this guy. But the reason was because it helped his back so much that he was literally becoming debilitated from it, and now he's better. So he's like, you know, if this works for me, it'll work for a lot of other guys, and by the call of a phone, I can have 100 guys pushing this right now. I'm like, no. There's a system we got to follow, buddy. That was how my morning started, and our evening finished with a bunch of old ladies baking bread and cookies over at, I think we came over, I just seen them earlier. It was just right down the street. There they are, back there. We were out at these folks' house, and it was just the biggest difference in personality and people and background. But so if there's anything that does help you in this business, it is, you know, being a little bit quicker on your feet to think sometimes, and know when to stay and know when to run, and you guys, we have a lot going on right now that is not available to everybody else in the country right now. Just so you guys know, there's been an organized, you know, and I think Steve was talking about it earlier, but there's been a little bit of an organized structure to some of this madness for the next 90 days or so, that every week at this, whether it's this location or another, somewhere nearby here, I think next week's over at the Radisson, but every week you're going to have a qualified presenter in here on Tuesday nights speaking in what this is, you know, what the opportunity is, a little bit about how it works. Once a month we have a big training function, so you can take what it is you're hearing about, do your homework, see if it checks out. Okay, you're excited. Now what? What's the next step? How to do this? So get plugged into a premier school or an elite academy, which is I'll let Steve talk about here what's coming up next. And if this is something you're serious about, get with us. Get with somebody who's making this happen. If it's not the person that invited you to it, if they're not doing their part supporting you, you're not stuck with just that person. Okay, that doesn't mean anything changes as far as who enrolled anybody or any structuring, but the way the system is set up to pay money, the behaviors that it creates amongst all of us as leaders is, whether even you're in my group or Eric's group or anyone's group or not, if you're involved with Live Manage, we want to help because first of all, we're all shareholders in the company. And second of all, we're all at the top of the company splitting profit share of this thing now. And third of all, it's just, I want to see Arizona outdo some of these other places we've been working. So there's a little bit of a personal, vendetta and competition going on there anyways. There's no reason why in the next, after this 90-day push and following through the holidays and coming into the new year, that we don't have to move downtown to the Sheridan because we're pushing 1,000 people into these meetings, okay? We've been involved in companies where it grew that way. And I think we just need to focus a little bit on our backyard more so. I know me and Blue have scaled back our traveling so that we're not hitting so many areas at once. And we're just going to focus on a few more of those key areas with key people that we know are going to do what they need to do. And so keep an eye on bigbluecalendar.com. If you have not done an in-home presentation at your house and your distributor, then I would say that's the first thing you're doing wrong. Okay, and that may sound cheesy and that may sound not professional or whatever. All I know is that people have the hardest time getting people to show up to meetings most of the time, right? There's probably people here who invited 4 or 5 people who didn't show up, right? Or maybe didn't. But usually the hardest part is getting people to show up. And if you're inviting them to something like this may not be the shoe that fits them. This does fit certain people and it has its application, but this isn't the only thing you can rely on building your business. If you're just inviting people to a meeting once a week that's here or wherever we're having it for the next 90 days, honestly, you probably won't get the results out of it that you're hoping for. But if you're doing some things in between these weekly meetings, so you got 6 days in between, not saying you got to fill up every day and have a busy schedule like that, but if you can do a house meeting or a few of the one-on-one things and being more personal with folks, and here's what I know with the people I talk to, that there's not a single friend of mine who would have showed up to this meeting tonight. That's just who they are, okay? But if I invite them over to my house and there's steaks on the grill, cold beer in the fridge, and some guy is going to talk about how to make some money, whether they're interested or not, doesn't matter. They're coming over for the steak and beer anyways. There's a lot higher chance of them being there than here. That's just my friends. I'm just telling you what worked for me. We grew it to 25,000 people somehow. I just want to kind of share with you guys that you have to utilize all of those outlets, all of those venues to get this message in front of people. And even after they see it, it might take them some time for them to soak here and do the homework they need. I mean, how many people here signed up the very same day they heard about this? There might be a few, like 5 or 6 of you. How many of you it took you longer than a week? Well, let me say this. How many did it within a week? We kind of build up that way. How many of it took you within your first month of seeing it? How many of it took you 3 months? Or longer, okay? So see, I'm just kind of giving you an idea of the difference. Every number I named, half the room was raising hands. And because, and here's what I got to say, for someone that took 2 or 3 months to do their homework and do their due diligence and come to a couple meetings and be pushed on a little bit, and they finally had their aha moment, whatever that was. They said, okay, I get this product's for real. Maybe they needed to see their own results first. Whatever it was that caused you to drag that out for 3 or 4 months, just be prepared for that, is all I'm saying. Don't get frustrated when you talk to somebody, they see all this and they see your enthusiasm, but they don't bite the hook, line, and sinker all at once, and they got to go through their process of figuring it out. Just be patient with them and don't write anybody off. You can't discount anybody because you never know how circumstances can change for folks. I saw people who had absolutely no financial interest in this. Maybe they might be interested in the product, the business was good, life was good, and within 3-4 months, their whole world had changed. They got divorced, they lost their company, lost a house, lost a job, or something. Yeah, that's all negative stuff. But, that's life, too. It happens. It's not that we need to sit there in the fetal position and stay there because there is a way to fix some of that here. So, we want to press on people the urgency of timing and where we're going with this thing. It won't be long before the story does change as to, how early on and how many people there are involved and some of those numbers that, are what they are. When you're in the first 1%, of that market's population. So how many people are in the States here? 300 plus million? Well, what they've shown so far in business courses is that the first 1% to get involved in a network marketing company in that market is considered the ground floor. So, that's 300,000 people that really needs to be involved in the U.S. market before we even have come close to some form of saturation or competition. Okay, we're not even close to that. There was a number given out on a conference call a couple weeks ago that there's roughly just over 20,000 active distributors. Okay, that are involved in the company right now. That's between U.S., Mexico, and Japan. Now, there's been more ID numbers out than that given out, but a lot of that is customers, and the people who go inactive and aren't building, they're really not a competition to you, because if they're not doing nothing, they're not doing nothing. It doesn't matter if they're in there or not. So there's a lot to think about, you guys. I appreciate your time sitting down with us and hearing about what's going on. Study this stuff. We'll break up here on the